All right, everyone, a new wave of polling out, and as far as the economy goes, really, really good news for Trump, and this is what's buoying his support. Really, it's been about the economy. It's the wallet, stupid, basically. Trump having 56% approval on that particular issue. That is significantly higher than his general approval, which is 43, 44. It's in the mid 40s, but he's in the mid to upper 50s on the economy. That's going to be really good for him because the big thing that he has to target during the subsequent election, and he has to hope the economy keeps chugging along at least at the rate it is, by the way, in order for this to be a good thing for him, is the Rust Belt. Well, the Rust Belt's big issue is the economy. Immigration secondary to that insofar as it affects the economy or is perceived as affecting the economy. That's more of an issue on the southern border. In all honesty, it's not so much of an issue in the Rust Belt. The Rust Belt's problem is that the manufacturing that happened there, initially it was a central location for all of North America. And so it was more strategically located. It was a good place to manufacture stuff like cars, because then using rail lines and shit, you could ship it out all over the United States. But that was when the United States was making and producing a lot of its own goods. In the era of globalism, all of that trade and manufacturing moved to the coast, because the US makes stuff and then sells it to other countries. Well, then if I'm selling stuff to China, I don't want to be located in Wisconsin. I want to be located probably in a place like California or Washington State. If I sell a lot of stuff to Europe, I probably want my factory to be somewhere on the eastern seaboard or maybe down in the Gulf of Mexico or something. I want that maritime access. I need it to be near, preferably air as well. And that's where you would locate it. You want a big-ass ship to send as much of your shit as possible overseas if you're conducting trade. And for manufacturing, you're also probably importing things. Makes sense to be near that nice seaport or at the very least a big-ass airport. You don't want to be in Detroit, which has dried up completely. There's no reason to locate there. It was funny, Detroit has so many problems. They had their streetlights half shut off for a while there. I think they finally got those working again. They're still bulldozing empty homes. Thousands and thousands of them every year, and there's still thousands and thousands more where that came from every year being created. St. Louis is falling apart, all of these sort of central cities. Now, can Trump save Detroit, so to speak? Not completely. But he can try to economically retool the region, and creating a pro-business sort of thing will help to rejuvenate some of the smaller communities in these areas as well. It's really more about trying to rejuvenate small-town America in the center of the country than it is about, rehabilitating Detroit and St. Louis. That's ultimately what his strategy number one needs to be. Number two primarily is a small, it's the small coal mine, it's the steel mill, it's the aluminum processing plant that has 200 employees. Those are the things you want to save if you want to be reelected in 2020, Mr. Trump. And I think he's doing a decent job of it, which explains the polling numbers. He is an economy president. I said, early on, I said his big thing is going to be fiscal policy domestically. It's going to be related to trade deals, which is technically part of that, and the economy and taxes, stuff like that. The ACA figured in insofar as the mandate exists. Now that that's been torn up, it's already going to go before SCOTUS. It's probable that the ACA will end up falling. They'll probably end up before SCOTUS. Trump has instructed, my branch of government, we're not going to defend it. So basically there's no defending at this point. It's basically the ACA is fundamentally dead. The only problem for him is it's unlikely to be decided before the 2020 election. It'll throw some chaos into an already chaotic crowd of Democrats, that's for sure. Oh, bye-bye Obamacare, haha. Trump will say, look, another campaign promise fulfilled. Wish that the wall were the one he were currently working on more. He has sort of gone quiet on that, but he's trolling the sanctuary cities, so I suppose it doesn't really matter now, does it? I think eventually they'll crack. More of them will come. What he's going to do is end up affecting local and state politics, and it's going to be mostly pro-Republican movement, which I think is what he's planning on. He's planning on putting enough stress on these areas that people lash back out against the Democrats because, of course, an illegal migrant isn't voting, and so they'll end up voting Trump back into power and kicking out a bunch of Democrats, especially in the House of Representatives. He can get his wall built, but he's got to do it this way first. I hate to tell people you're going to have to deal with that fact. Oh no, you shouldn't be releasing them at all in the United States. Well, the courts have already prevented him from doing anything else. He can't detain him. He can't deport him. Congress refuses to do its job. What the fuck else is he going to do? He's going to use that. At the very least, he's going to get something out of the situation. I think he's a fucking genius for doing what he's doing. It's the best. It's taking the lemons and making lemonade. Sometimes you just want to suck on an actual lemon, but the lemonade, mostly people find it tastier. It's pretty much the only way I'll eat a lemon. As a kid, I used to eat like little wedges. I did it mostly to impress. Like, you know, you'd start sucking on the lemon, and your friends would be like, "Ugh," you know, and they think, oh, how can you do that? You know, it's funny, and then you spit the seeds at them. That's the whole fucking point. Yeah, you get a lemon with too few seeds in it, it's always a sad day. But yeah, economics is really Trump's forte. He needs to play that up. And like going into the election, he's going to go a lot to the Rust Belt and the Mid-Atlantic states, and he's going to talk about reducing people's taxes and bringing back some aluminum plant. That's going to be his re-election strategy. And a little bit of foreign policy, not just related to trade, but I'd say North Korea. He's done a good job there. Right now, the talks have stalled for the most part. The ROK and DPRK have to take the fore again. This is the second time it's happened. I'm not worried about the situation because it's sort of like an elaborate sort of dance. It's sort of like a little promenade with a lot of little pirouettes and stuff. And sometimes you're moving away, sometimes you're moving forward. Sort of how this particular diplomacy works. And it's working. Actually, diplomacy took place a lot under Bush because he was a dip, but, you know, just saying. But yeah, Trump's trump card is the economy. It's the economy, stupid. Things are going generally well. He's likely to be reelected. Look, we don't have any major conflicts going on, and hopefully we don't have any. I hope Trump's reelected and he's like one of the few presidents that never starts a new war. That would be nice. We're in a bunch of wars, but doesn't start any new ones. Hell, that's a lot more peace-nicky than any other president we've had lately. Obama gleefully laughed as Libya got overthrown. Laughed gleefully over Egypt, people dying and suffering there. He was happy when Tunisia almost got hazarded by jihadists. Arab Spring, it was a bunch of bullshit, really. What it was just an overthrow of a bunch of stable regimes in favor of total chaos, which allowed ISIS in. But, you know, Obama wasn't exactly a master of foreign policy on anything but ripping apart the Cuba embargo. Now that's hazarded because it looks like the Cubans might send troops to Venezuela to try to help keep the peace. The entire Eastern Bloc filtering into Venezuela, probably in their case, probably to secure oil more than anything else. It's funny to see Russia proactively, technically invade as a foreign nation and station troops there because of oil. Isn't that surreal? I wonder, are there going to be like people who treat Putin the way that Bush was treated here? Deservedly, admittedly. I doubt it. A lot of people are Putin apologists too. It's very funny. It's very funny when people say, well, Uncle Sam bad, therefore Kremlin good. That's the totally screwy propagandized mentality. No, they both have some good and bad ideas. And unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption in both of them as well. That's about all. Peace out.